Cool.
We'll kick with that one. And once we're live and kicking, I'll let you know. Alrighty then. So we're recording, so that's good. Everything's on silent. My daughters are eating Wheat Bix, so they'll be quiet for about 20 minutes or so, and we'll see what happens. Okay. Welcome back to the Coaches to the Moon podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very blessed this morning to be joined by Christina Foxwell. She's the founder of Ignite Purpose. She's a speaker, she's a coach, and a professional hope giver. So she works with leaders to basically help them positively impact their teams and mostly their own life. So originally from South Africa, but now coming at me from 15 minutes away on a sunny day in Sydney. Christina, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Alex. It's so great to be here. And hello to everybody out there. Thanks for tuning
Hello.
in.
Hello, Mum and Carl, the only people who ever
Yay.
tune into the live feed. So
I know that feeling.
we all have our Carl, all right? No,
Yeah.
one person who just you don't understand why they like you so much, but I'm very blessed to have him. So hey, thank you so much for being here, and I want to just jump into the history. Like a
Okay.
lot of our guests, you spent a long time in the corporate space,
I
in
did.
HR, before moving into your own business. Why did you make that shift, and what was that process like for you?
So it's really interesting. The HR background I've had has been very focused around recruitment and learning and development. And I wouldn't say I was an in-house HR. I worked for an international organization that actually consulted into organizations around organizational change and behavior change, etc. I wasn't a coach because the coaching it wasn't actually a thing back then. We were just trying to educate people and then get leaders to coach, which makes sense, and teaching leaders how to coach, which I was part of. And so I led that business. I was head of consulting for South Africa for the global organization, and then I came to Australia. And over here, I held some GM roles and head of sales roles. So my challenge was always we give organizations the tools to shift and grow from a research perspective, but no change happens. And then I sit with people who are often so frustrated by, the lack of feeling connected to their role, the lack of feel like they can bring value, leaders who are struggling. And I was like, yeah, this has to change. And I've been one myself. So, how do we make sure we get better outcomes? How do we make sure we get a return that actually makes a difference? And so, about how many years ago? So, my practice is 10 years old. About 11 and a half years ago, I started playing with the idea that I've got to start my own practice. Actually, I was just miserable working in these organizations where I couldn't see the change based on what I believed could happen. And I must have watched Simon Sinek's The Why for like 1,000 times. I was like, okay, I get the why, and I understand. I've led teams where we've given them purpose, and people have actually been highly connected to their roles. So, how do I bring that learning into the work that I'm doing? Alex, I wouldn't say I came into this space going, I'm going to be a super coach. That was not my intent. I wanted to run an organization that would align, enable, and engage people. So everything we did needed to align, enable, and engage people so that they could be better in their organizations. And I was very clear that people are the heart of the organization. How do we help them be better so that the organization's better? And how do we connect their purpose to the organization's purpose? And that's easy to know as a fundamental thing, but how do we bring it to life? And so that's probably where a lot of my skill set came into to being. And I started off, my first 2 years were horrible, 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 horrible. I came off a really successful salary, um, and where I was earning commissions and all that sort of thing, starting this practice. And my husband was like, oh, this is hectic. And I think what I found was that people weren't as willing to speak to me. And
When you were working solo, you mean?
yeah, when I started the practice, they weren't as willing to get engaged in my belief piece because nobody understood the concept of alignment at that stage. It wasn't something we were using as a language. Um, and I knew we needed to do it, but I needed to figure out how to do it. I'm one of those people that built the plane while I was in it. And so over the last 10 years, we've really refined it. We know how to do it. Um, I'm incredibly clear about how to do it. The work we do always has reach and multiplies. And I never, ever just deliver a 1 day session if I can help myself. Because that's not how we work and that's not how we achieve what we believe is important for organizations. So, started with that 10 years ago. The practice at the moment, our practice grew. We were a large group of people. Before COVID, I started shifting and going, this isn't good for me. I'm working long hours. I'm really killing myself here. Even though I've got these amazing contracts, I'm delivering the work because people wanted me to deliver the work because the work comes out of me. Um, and so I re-looked at how we did our practice and scaled it back, looked at higher profitability so that I could actually take the breaks I needed to recuperate and continue the research I was doing. And so, yeah, we're a wholly family run and owned business at the moment, which is fantastic.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And congrats on making it 10 years. Far out. Most people in business will never make it that far. So that's
Thank
very
you.
exciting.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited and grateful. So grateful.
Amazing. And it's interesting, the concept of scaling back. We don't hear much of that in the entrepreneurial space. It's always more, more, grow every quarter. I know, and I always thought that was a crazy way of thinking, but I find myself being in it now. Like, how can I get bigger next quarter, that sort of thing. And oh my God, quarter four of the year. But the scale back to find the business that works for you. That's the real dream, isn't it? It's not, we talk about purpose. It's not, you wouldn't have left your high paying job to do this if it was about money and profit for you. So the scale back is a really interesting thing. How do you know it's time to scale back, and what are the steps you take in doing that effectively?
So if you're running a healthy business, you're looking at your P&L. I'm just calling it out. You could be making as much top line as you want, but if you're paying a lot of people salaries and those people aren't able to truly contribute to the growth of the organization, and I'm going to say this, if you're founder led, which you will be, founders are crazy people who work crazy hours, who know everything, which means we need time to coach people. But our problem is as soon as we spend time on doing that, revenue doesn't come in. Okay, so it becomes a vicious cycle of throwing people in, hoping to God they'll swim, hoping that it will be a return, um, and it becomes really difficult. And so I think what we've got to be focused on is not top line but profitability and building cash in our practices, and then being able to create enough space and peacefulness to do the work effectively with gravity and with clarity and purpose. Honestly, if we don't do it that way, we're just running on the surface. And it doesn't matter if your top line is $1 million a year, but you are not making any profit.
True. It's just a number. It's just a brag, isn't it, really, when you get
Oh,
to that
yeah.
point? I know I came from restaurants, I came from hospitality, and I know friends with restaurants who do, pretty impressive monthly numbers, but then you see the bills that restaurants have, and it's bonkers. They're running on razor thin margins, and that's why so many restaurants shut down week two
Mm-hmm.
into COVID, because they don't have that much supply to keep going forward. So I think when I used to own a cafe, that sort of thing scared the hell out of me, and so I try to be relatively frugal in my business now. But I actually just went through a period of hiring maybe too many people, and then having to scale back a little bit, but then find roles for these more part-time roles for these people within the business, because I don't want to, uh, it's my fault for over hiring, right? So I don't want to then make it their problem. So I, have the conversation, and then I've just scaled back two people,
Mm.
and it's been amicable, which is good, which scared the hell out of me, but it's
But it hurts our hearts, doesn't it?
100% not their
I
problem that
cry. I
I overdid
cry
it.
every time. I cry
Yeah,
every time. I cry. Like, I could see them help me make this business amazing. And then as we're doing it, it's not working. And the worst is if you've got people working with you and they are so amazing, but you can't use their talents because you don't have enough time to look at how you can.
that
Um,
was it. that was it. Yeah. No, it wasn't money that made me scale back. I could afford to pay these people. It was like, I know that you're here 8 hours a day for me, and I'm not giving you enough projects and work because it's taken me more time to delegate it than to just sort of do it myself. I want you sitting there in a job that sucks and just getting paid for it and then being bored on account of me not being organized enough. So, yeah, that was
Totally.
a massive learning curve.
And I think we've got to get over our vision of what success is. Success isn't who we become. Success is, I think, just being a wonderful, good human being who has got the ability to positively impact other people's lives every day. Um, because I could walk around with a vision of, oh my God, she's so amazing. Really? She's just a human being a good human being with other human beings. And maybe that's what it is. Because I mean, over 10 years, I've done so many projects. I've seen organizations come and go. I've seen leadership teams uh, grow, divide, people leave. So the work we're doing isn't something that is necessarily just about the organization. The work we're doing is about the people that will leave an organization and the impact we've had with them will stay. And I think we've got to get clear about success isn't tomorrow. It's about being grateful for what we have today. It's about being totally immersed in this moment with someone.
We could easily end the podcast there because that's all that ever needs to be said, really, isn't it? When you're talking about running a better business. But we will go further because that was beautiful.
Do
And
it.
I find myself agreeing massively. And it actually leads me nicely into my next question I had for
Go
you.
for it, Alex.
I want to get onto the word purpose. Your business is called Ignite Purpose.
It
Okay.
is.
Purpose is a funny one for me because that word gets thrown around so much in the coaching space.
Yes.
And you'll have a lot more knowledge and insight than me, but I think people use it too much. And I run a digital marketing company, for example. I love the work that I do. I love my team. We donate a fair amount of money to charity. Spend lots of time with my family, and I love the work I do. But I, by no means, believe that my purpose is to run Facebook ads for people. I don't think that's why I was put on this planet. So
No.
I'd love to ask you first, what does the word purpose mean for you?
Okay, so if you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have given you, I believe that people are central to the organizations, and if we can touch one person's life a day, we touch the world. Now, 10 years later, as I've gone through my alchemy, my healing, my growth, deepening my sense of peacefulness, it's to make a difference to one person's life a day. That's it. Because when my day is shitty, and I can tell you I have them, okay? And I've just been on the phone with someone, or someone tells me, I don't believe I need coaching, I'm fine. And you know that they're one of the biggest challenges you've got in your client organization, and they absolutely do not want to grow. And you think, God, what have I done wrong in that moment with that person for them to feel that way? And you just do lots of it. I go, nah, I'm stepping out of this and I'm reminding myself why I do this. One person's life a day. It's as simple as that. I believe it. My team believe it. We believe that it starts with one person, not with the whole organization or a whole group. And so if it's the one person we're impacting, maybe we're that one person too.
Cool, love that because I think in the coaching space, we're all here, half for entrepreneurial reasons and half for impact reasons. That's why we get into coaching,
Yes.
and consulting and helping people rather than just going for a salary, which is cool. But and I don't know if any are listening, but talking to the 28-year-old who is working in the customer service department of a plastic importation company in the industrial area of Brookvale. I say that because I used to own a cafe in this building. And you say your purpose is to impact one person a day. What do you say to that person who just that's so disconnected from their reality right now?
Okay, so I'm going to give them a formula. I come from data background, so I'm going to give them a formula. I love a formula. Okay, so imagine if I could bring my skills, gifts, and talents, what makes me me, what makes me amazing, and I can use it so that somebody else can be more. I don't know what that looks like. And I do that every single day. I live a purposeful and fulfilled life. Now, often people ask me, so how do I do it? I get a bloomin' post-it notepad, a sticky notepad, some markers, get a wall in your house, and for 6 months, every time you walk past that wall, you put up some gift that you know you have. This is the thing I have, man. I'm good at speaking to people. I am passionate about serving people. I am brilliant at making coffee. And you just keep putting it up there, and you get your family to put it up there, and you go, well, what do I have that when I bring it, somebody else is more what? Feels better, is more engaged, da da da. So that if you can start doing that, you'll land it. And then you've got to do this. You've got to remember that if you're 20, in your early 20s, you're going to go through a state of evolution and you have to walk a path. So then you've got to be open for your life to continue evolving. See, we don't hit a path at 20, 28, I'm almost 50, right? And go, that's what I'm going to do. Mind you, I will tell you this, Alex, when I was 17, I wanted to become a minister, a religious minister, because my dad was one. And he said to me, girls, don't do that. And if I look at my practice today, I talk to people about their hearts. I teach them how to be better. I teach them how to love themselves. And so in many ways, I'm living some form of the initial purpose I have. It's just not in the same frame. And it doesn't have that lens of church on it, but it definitely has the lens of being better together. So what I will say to you is that it's simple. Get your tools, start thinking about it. And then there's one more thing I'll say. We can exchange value. We can ask for, when we're exchanging what we have with somebody else because it's purposeful, we can ask for the value exchange too, because that's okay too. People value what they pay for, not what's freely given. So put a price on what you do, but don't attach your worth to what you do.
Mic drop on that last sentence. Massive. A lot of stuff I want to unpack in that one. The first one, I was just briefly, I'll touch on. My sister is a chaplain in a maximum security women's prison.
Wow.
And
I want to talk to her.
she's the coolest person I know by a long shot.
Alex, you got to send her to me. I want to talk to her.
Yeah, 100%. No, she'd be stoked. Uh, she's always followed purpose hugely. She did something similar. She had a really, high paid job as a physio. She was doing cool work, salary, come home, done. And then she dropped it all and went into what's it, like a degree of divinity or something.
Theology, yes.
Yeah, and then she's now a chaplain in a maximum security women's prison.
That's amazing.
And, that's not really a high paying role at all, but far out does she, have some conversations with people. Really, really cool. I'll definitely hook you guys up because she'd be stoked to have a chat with anyone. It's her job, just as you said. The second part was I kind of noticed, I asked you about how does someone find their purpose when they're just working in some kind of 9 to 5 job. But I think we always put way too much focus on what we do for a living, right?
Totally.
If you're working your job to pay the bills so then you can go and make funny TikTok videos who make people laugh in your time off, or the rare people who go and actually do some charitable work on the outside or coach a freaking kids football team, your impact can absolutely come and your purpose outside of your work day. And I think you kind of made me realize the answer to my own question was that my purpose isn't to do Facebook ads, but I think I'm a very decent person in the hours outside of work. And because of my business, I have quite a lot of those hours. So yeah, just trying to be a good dad most of the time. And lovely. Well, thank you for coaching me on my own cynicism. I appreciate
Listen,
it.
it's my great pleasure. I just want to add something to what you've just said. Purpose is not defined by the job. But purpose is the elements that weave your story. It's the essence of you that comes to life. That when you bring it for others, it just is magic. I can't say it any other way.
No need, because you've said it perfectly there. Let's
Mm.
talk about story. You've
Okay.
got 3 books out at the moment. You got another
Mm.
book coming out in 5 days from the time of recording this podcast,
Totally.
and that's The Glass Angel. I love the concept of your 2 kids' books. Oscar, who is a pufferfish, owning his pop, and Astra, the unicorn, finding her
Totally.
belonging. And
Totally.
I've got a kids' book as well that I've never published, and I need to do it because I've met so many cool people who've written kids' books. Um, Storytelling. How do you get into to telling stories?
My mother is the world's best storyteller. In actual fact, she's just come to live with me, and I'd like to do a YouTube channel with her like Mrs. Doubtfire because she is a crazy lady and she's amazing. But she can tell me stories, and she always told us stories. And I grew up in Africa, so us as a family, we were always laughing and joking and sharing. And we suffer from dyslexia as a family, so all of us have it, which means our brain just works so different. Like we see things in pictures, we are just wired that way. And so our ability to use narrative and language to weave pictures for people is one of the gifts we have. And so I'll be honest with you. I did not actually want to write that story. Like my first book, I was like, I was never going to. I always wanted to, but then I was, and I created in our practice. I talk about fear and our amygdala that goes off in our brain, which is like the alarm system. I use the analogy of a pufferfish. So where's an organization? We're all hanging out together or as a family, and then one person's feeling stressed, something happens, they weren't expecting it, or it hits them in the head or whatever, and they pop like a pufferfish. And the problem is when they pop, everybody else around them could potentially pop too. Okay. And then how do we regulate that and how do we come back to ourselves? So it's emotional intelligence. And my son was going through a whole lot of issues. And so I wrote his story. It's my son's story. Oscar the pufferfish owns his pop because my son was struggling with vulnerability and empathy because he'd been bullied at school and it was so hard for him. He was making up stories about no one liking him before he even got close to them. So that's how I started the first story. Do I think it's beautifully written? No, but it's written from an honest place. So it's just a simple book. And actually, what I love to hear is, my child loves Oscar. So that's good. And then I was on a flight between Melbourne and Sydney. I sat at the airport. I was doing some internal reflection work. It was a time where I really needed to connect with myself as I was starting my deeper journey. And I wrote the book between Melbourne and Sydney on the plane. And then I refined the book over 6 months, got an artist to help me publish the book. I give it to executives. I'm not sure always they excited to get a unicorn book when they meet me. Or if we talk about organizations creating a culture of together, they get my unicorn book and they're like, oh my God, this lady's weird. Not only does she give us plush toys, but we get kids' books. So it's human stories. It's meant for families to read. And then last year, for the year before last year, I wrote Grow Me, which was a guide to transform to like growth. And why would I step into growth? Because I coach people and they generally don't want to grow because they think if they're being coached, there's something wrong with them, which I just want to eradicate that. And then The Glass Angel, which is my new book that's coming out, is a guide to freedom, transformation, and growth. And it's my story. I suffered domestic violence and sexual abuse as a kid. And it's my story of healing and breaking the cycles of behavior that kept locking me in, kept getting caught out on them. And I use an analogy, so it's a different book again. It starts with an analogy of a glass angel that gets broken, but actually was never broken because their journey was a gift to transform them into who they need to be today so they can be better for other people. What a beautiful calling. The second part of the book is my story and how I seed each one of those really challenging stories I share with love, forgiveness, acceptance, and release. And I use it so that not as a therapy book for everyone to read my story and go, oh my God, that's what she went through. No, 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 no. I'm using it so that people can realize that we've got some really crappy stories sometimes that hold us back or that are hidden in our closet. And until we accept it and release it, we'll keep getting stuck in the cycles of our behavior, which means I can coach someone till I'm blue in the face, but if they're not willing to own some of the things that keep them in that cycle, we're never going to get them free. So that's the middle piece. The final piece are alchemy practices so that they can start their own transformation. I'm really excited. I know it's going to be an absolute game changer for so many people.
I bet it will. And that last piece is what so many of these, tough storybooks are missing, isn't it? Tangible advice at the end of the book, what to do next, almost a call to action, your alchemy practices. So many
Totally.
books have the difficult paths and look where I am now, but very rarely do they come out and say, here are some steps that you, reader, can take if you've been through this shit as well. So that's really cool. Well done.
Totally. Thank you so much. I'm very practical. I believe you don't just tell a story without giving people hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's where storytelling becomes coaching,
Doesn't it
right?
just?
Yeah. No, really, really cool. So are you going to be taking, um, actually, no, I want to go back to the Astra the Unicorn book because it's
Mm.
really interesting that you're rocking into organizations and handing them this beautifully illustrated pink and shiny book about a unicorn.
Totally.
What's the real reason behind doing that?
Executives don't know how to play together. And I'll share this with you. How many people suffer with an inner critic or a judge?
All of them?
Everyone. Okay. So Astra's story is about not feeling that she fits in anywhere. And if we look at how, and so let me just, she's not a zebra because she can't be a zebra. She's not a monkey. She's not built that way. Okay. So who is she? And who will accept her for what she has? Now, I will say this to you, everyone is different. I don't care if you're a human being. I don't care what your coloring is. I don't care what your culture is. I don't care if you're brother and sister and you're twins, like your little girls, right? They are different. They are unique. They bring something that's just them. And yet we want people to come into an organization and be like a uniformed army. Are you kidding? Like, I need to be able to bring me into this organization, but I need to recognize that in the organization, I'm looking for best fit. Okay. Um, Not to fit in. I need best fit. And so I really think when I give that to executives, I think there's this feeling that if I'm an executive, why would I pick up a book like that? I got feedback from one of the HR directors going, the one director said that this was highly inappropriate. And I was like, okay, cool. I can't change that for you. It wasn't inappropriate. We spoke about belonging. And I want you to read that to recognize that if we can show kindness to each other and if we can share with each other the good we see, maybe we can encourage each other to bring more of that.
I love it. I love it. That's it. And that sounds completely appropriate, right?
Doesn't it just?
Yeah, yeah. I want to talk about the when you just said that organizations want everyone to just fit in and be uniform or moving towards the same goals. Because a lot of the coaches that we're talking to today are in that first few years where maybe they've got one or two team members for the first time, and some people are expecting their team to work as hard or harder than them because I'm the boss, I'm paying you, so you put in the hours while I sit back. That's obviously never going to happen because why should your team care about your business as much as you do? I have ways that I try to help my team care about my business, but for the people out there just starting off and maybe they're hiring their first one or two assistants into their full-time coaching business, how do you start to give your team a passion about the work they're doing every day?
That is a hard question because over the last 10 years, I've seen people join for the flexibility that I offer, but not necessarily for the belief in what we do. And sometimes we need somebody to just do some of the work for us. Like, for example, organize logistics or, I don't know, schedule stuff or whatever it is we need them for. And we do need people, otherwise, we end up doing the things we're not good at. And we spend a lot of time on that versus the things we are good at. So we should be doing that. What I will say is have grace and compassion and don't expect them to be you. They will never be you. You are the soul of this business. You have chosen to birth it. It is you. It is your thing. That's the first thing. The second thing I think is be very clear on what you need. Communicate what you want. And my son said this to me one day because I was really upset because I was struggling with the team and it was hard. And he said to me, Mom, are these people employed by you or are they your friends? And I was like, but I really love them. He goes, yeah, but you don't pay people to be your friend, do you? Okay.
How old's your son?
He's now 18. He was about 14, 15 at that stage.
Wise.
Oh, he's a wise one. And I just said, well, you've got a point. And so there has to be deep love and compassion for your people, but they don't have to be your friend, please. Actually, they shouldn't be a friend because your friends are the place where you sit back on a week and go, oh my goodness, I just need to quickly go and blah, 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 get it out. Um, so treat them with love, respect, honor them for what they do. Be clear on what you need from them. Remember, I said earlier in the podcast, I had a lot of people that I hired, but I didn't have enough time to spend with them, so I wasn't actually allowing them to be effective, and you and I spoke about that. So then you get frustrated because you're paying people, but they're not doing, what you're doing. Da, da, da. Stop that rhetoric. That is your own fear and your own discomfort. You have to get out of that cycle in your mind. If you've got people here to help you, then utilize what you can. If you're busy and they are ending up not doing some stuff and you don't have the courage to get them to do the stuff you need, then that belongs to you. If they don't want to do what you've asked them to do and you're getting like, I don't want to do that, I just don't feel comfortable doing that, and I'm just saying like basic stuff, you're like sending a MailChimp out or then you've got to ask yourself the question, are they the right people to stand next to me? To work for somebody like us in coaching is hard because people sometimes get a bit of a shame hangover when we do some of the work we do. I can't explain it to you. Or suddenly they feel like they have to compete with you. Really? Are you out of your mind? Why are we doing that? So I think connection, generosity, honesty, own your stuff as a coach and recognize that they're going to do the best they can. You can develop a charter, you can do all the corporate pieces, but you're not a corporate. You're a small business who is running the business to the best of your ability with people who are bringing what they have. So respect them for that.
Love it. Love it. That's a really, really, I suppose that's how I am trying to run my business now. So I'm glad that you said that. Said that it was validating is what it was. Validating because I like that you're so able to talk about these failures that I suppose people, not failures but difficulties that people wouldn't really think about too much, having staff and being worried that they're not being productive enough, and that being your fault. And I think it's just really timely that happened to me like this month, and so I keep honing on about it. But
You got to forgive yourself though, Alex.
yeah, no, I'm good with it. I had a really shitty Monday. Monday was a bad day for me, and
Yes.
but then I think owning up to things and just knowing that we're all doing this thing for the first time, basically. Just like with the babies out there, with the girls. When have I ever been lived with a 2-year-old before? you
No,
know,
you have not. And they are special at two. They are
absolutely.
beautiful and filled with energy.
100%, 100%. So I think, people, we beat ourselves up so much in parenting and in business and
Yes.
everything where we've never done it before. Why should we be better at it? This is how you
Yes.
learn. And I think that's a really good message that people like yourself are sending
Yes.
rather than what we probably have learned from school and getting graded and exams and that sort of thing. You were you still are dyslexic. How were you at school?
I worked really, really hard. Um, and I think, it comes on it's kind of a sliding scale. My brothers have it a little more harshly than I do. But I could spell negotiation for you about six different ways. And at school, we did get shamed for, you got labeled as a bit stupid or not mainstream, or, you're never going to be like other kids. Yeah, you never are going to be like them. And that's okay. I don't need to be.
Another, what a perfect message. To be like other business people. You
Oh,
don't
there
need
you
to
go.
have your, Instagram account look like theirs, and you don't need to run your program the same as them. I'm saying this stuff as if I really know what I'm talking about. I'm just talking from my
No,
own experience over 6 years.
Alex, I am not, I am me. I bring me into a business. Yesterday, I had a catch up with a CEO, and I love dresses now. I used to wear business suits, and because I was in consulting for so long, now I go in with my long dresses. I had this leopard print dress with these puff sleeves, and anyway, I was like, oh God, wonder what the CEO is going to say. But you know what? I walked in, I spent time with them. I am me. I bring me. That's okay. That's all I have. I don't want to wear masks. I am not willing to be anything but me.
I remember I used to get onto sales meetings and put on, we're on Zoom. I'm wearing like workout shorts right now, and
Yes.
this t-shirt's a little bit too short for me. But I used to put on like a nicer shirt to do sales meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I thought, why am I doing this? Well, if I'm going to be working with this person hopefully for a long time, what am I going to do? Dress differently every time I have
Every
a meeting
single
with them?
time.
No, not at all. And it also comes into for we're all working from home now. If
Mm.
people can't really deal with the fact that I've got two kids there outside the door, and sometimes they're going to bang on the door, and if people, and my clients have that as well. If someone rocks up to a meeting with the baby on their lap, or one of my staff, it's like that is who you are, and we've got to absolutely. If we're going to work together in any successful capacity, you really have to accept these things rather than hide them, which I think may still be the case in a more corporate landscape.
Yeah, and I think we've got to start being forgiving. Um, for me, it's about the output, not the showing up pretending that we've got it all together. I'd much rather you tell me you don't have it all together and this is what you can do. Just be honest. And you know what? Show up. My grandson generally runs around he comes into my office here because we're in a office building, and he runs around the desk and he hops on my lap, and it doesn't care who I'm coaching. It could be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. He does not care. And you know what? I give him a kiss and a pat on the bum. Did I go, go? And then off he runs. And I just carry on with my meeting, right? And I think that's okay. No, I know that's okay because he warms my heart. And you know what? That's really what matters.
100%, 100%. And it would be really, I suppose, delusional for anyone to expect you to not have a life outside the session that they're currently in with you. You know, uh, I've
Totally.
started setting those boundaries because working on the internet is tough, right? Everyone's got contact with you all the time now, so setting those sort of boundaries with new clients. My existing old clients, they kind of are used to be able to catch me whenever. But with
Yes.
new people, setting those boundaries slowly, slowly, and you know, no one really cares if you get the job done that tonight or tomorrow morning anyway. In
You know what? They don't. And if you're not checking on your deadlines, then, that's something you need to be clear on. But life's happening. I think after since COVID, we've managed to look at life differently. And yeah, I think we just need a bit more patience, compassion, and clarity and honesty. I think more of that makes our world better, Alex.
Couldn't agree more, and I think it's a really, really beautiful place to leave it because every conversation we've had today keeps coming back to that same message, which is mad. And I feel like whatever example I'm going to throw at you will come back to
Oh, yeah, it
compassion,
will. Mm-hmm.
honesty, clarity, and patience.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that these are parts of business that we don't see heaps from the business gurus on Instagram. that sort of thing. Maybe a little bit from Gary Vee. You see quite a lot of that stuff,
Yep.
empathy,
Yep.
emotional acuity. But
Totally. But no one else uses their voice like that.
no.
Because heaven forbid I don't look corporate enough.
Why?
Because I think people think that's what other people buy, but they actually don't. Like, we have to start making a change in the world we live. I love Gary Vee. I think I didn't love him initially. I was like, "Woo, what a guy!" And then his message has continued to transform, and I think his heart is absolutely in the right place. And my message is so similar, and it's because of my transformation in me. And maybe that's what we're called for. It's not who you know. It's not what you know. It's who you are. So we got to work on who we are.
Yeah, yeah, he's calmed down a lot, hasn't he? Which is nice. So
Totally.
I am going to have to
Yes.
leave it there, but I'm
Thank you.
really, really excited to have had you on. This has been a beautiful conversation and not at all what I was expecting. So I love it when that happens. Not sure what I was expecting going in, but you got an interesting story, and thank you so much for giving us your compassion, patience, and clarity today. It's been great. Tell
Alex,
everyone
thank
where
you
they can
too.
grab your book, that sort of thing.
So my book's available on Amazon. Yet we've got the most beautiful copy here at Ignite Purpose, and we are going to post it out to you on Sendle. So why don't you hit our website www.ignitepurpose.com.au, go to the books section. There's a tab that says books. Go to the bottom of the books. Glass Angel is there. You'll see all the different reviews we've had has been unbelievable. You'll pass all our other books on your way down, but I want you to get Glass Angel because it's going to transform your life.
Keep telling me for 1 second. I've just heard a big bump outside. I'm going to come right
Oh,
back.
okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Keep
good.
ripping about your book for 30 seconds.
All right, the book. uh, yeah, so please, I'd love you to go and get it. Also, if you want to listen to more of my podcast work, I've got a new podcast season 5, and we're talking about the glass angel. And I'm sharing the alchemy practices in this process. So in the new podcast season, so I'd love you to join us for that. And yeah, I think be brave enough to know that you are the change and you can make the difference in people's lives. And that's why I wrote The Glass Angel. So thank you, Alex.
My pleasure. You know those plastic cars, like the Flintstones cars?
Yes.
It just fell over, and that's a big noise. Fell
Oh,
over on a wooden floor with a
Daddy.
baby inside, but everyone's fine. But
Yay.
yeah. So, and yeah, that is what we were talking about, right? You gotta
Exactly.
just
It's
rock
life.
the
You got to embrace it with love.
yeah. And I'm glad you're
Alex,
here.
you were absolutely not what I expected today. So you were my gift. So thank you for being a gift to me.
Stop it. Stop it. Thank you,
Nah.
Christina Foxwell. Thank you so much for being on the show today. And it would be really cool to catch up in person since we only live 15 minutes apart. So let's do
You
that.
come for a coffee here at my office in French's Forest,
I can't
Alex.
wait. I can't wait.
I'd
I'm on
love
it.
that.
I'm on it. I'll be
I'd
there
love
this
that.
afternoon. And anyone who's watching live, thank you so much for doing that,
Yeah.
despite my having to suddenly bail on the conversation. But I'm back. And anyone who's on the recording, we love you to bits for that as well. Thank you so much. I'll be back next week with another episode of Coaches to the Moon. Until then, thanks so much. Much love and peace out.